Hey, hey, hey. How is everyone today? It's Wednesday, so you're halfway through the week, more than halfway through the week. Yay. Well, welcome to the show today. I normally have a co-host, my Teresa, and she is ill today. She has strep throat, so we're definitely wishing her well and a quick recovery, and that she'll be here next week, next Wednesday, 6 o'clock Central, 7 o'clock Eastern, so that hopefully that she will join and feel better next week. So we do miss her. But let me first talk a little housekeeping like I'm supposed to, but welcome. Welcome to the Speak Up and Empower Real Talk. And this real talk is narcissism and self-love. I am your co-host, Cami Martin, and Teresa Howard is my other co-host. And like I said, she is ill today. But Speak Up and Empower is an online membership-based community of heart-centered people who envision more for the world. A community of experts from a wide range of fields who have a voice that needs to be heard, along with a community of amazing members of all colors, sexual orientation, religions, and cultures who are searching for more in their lives. So, got that piece out. So since I don't have my co-host today, she and I talked earlier about what we could talk about, because we were going to talk about gaslighting and projection is what we were going to talk about today. But since she's not here, we're going to kind of sidebar that until next Wednesday. So that'll be our topics for next Wednesday. And so we both decided that let's talk about the month of October, which is the National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And it obviously brings recognition to domestic violence and what's going out and going on in the world. So we want to talk about that. And then she also told me that I should talk about my book, which I don't talk a lot about, and I probably should talk a little bit more about. So I'm going to talk about this right here, Watch Me, Choose Me. And I wanted to see how it would go together. And so before I started the broadcast, I thought, what can I say? How can I pull the two together? And so I thought, well, maybe I'll just read a chapter out of the book or read something out of the book. And then I got to the prologue and I started reading it and I thought, this is perfect. So I'm going to read the prologue out of the book after we talk a little bit about some statistics and what domestic violence is. Because a lot of us have been told that domestic violence is physical abuse, period. And it's not. It's emotional abuse. It's verbal abuse. It's financial abuse. It's sexual abuse. It's spiritual abuse. There's a bigger picture to that. But what a lot of people only see or put together with that is the physical part, because that's the part that you can see. And that's not the case. And as for me, I didn't have the physical piece. I had everything else but that. And sometimes I gave my talk, my story not too long ago, and someone said, wow, I did not know about this domestic violence. Like it was a new domestic violence. And it's not. It's just people aren't made aware that it is just as bad. My scars internally, my scars emotionally and in my head are just as deep and just as prevalent as if I had a scar on the outside of my body. The PTSD in a lot of studies show is bigger in people that are emotionally abused and verbally abused than some that are physically abused. So, and it's not, the thing is, it's not one is more or less than the other. Nobody is keeping score. Nobody is keeping record that this is worse and this isn't as worse. It's all bad. We all go through stuff that's bad. So definitely not, this is worse, this is better. Let's not keep, one's just easier to see, but they're both just as difficult to get through. So I wanted to read to you some of the statistics. Oh, I've got comments I haven't on this in there.
One's just easier to see.
Hi, Daniel. I have people making comments, but I didn't see it yet. And I need to turn this down because I can hear myself. All right. So some of the statistics I wanted to read to you that are very prevalent and a lot of people don't understand and don't know. On average, nearly 20 people per minute are physically abused by an intimate partner in the United States. During 1 year, this equates to more than 10 million women and men. And it's not just women, it is women and men. 1 in 4 women and 1 in 9 men experience severe intimate partner physical violence, intimate partner contact sexual violence, and or intimate partner stalking with impacts such as injury, fearfulness, post-traumatic stress disorder, use of victim services, and contracting sexually transmitted disease. 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men have experienced some form of physical violence by an intimate partner. 1 in 7 women and 1 in 25 men have been injured by an intimate partner. 1 in 10 women have been raped by an intimate partner. 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men have been victims of severe physical violence. Let me move down here. On a typical day, there are more than 20,000 phone calls placed to domestic violence hotlines nationwide. The presence of a gun in a domestic violence situation increases the risk of homicide by 500%. 500%. Intimate partner violence accounts for 15% of all violent crimes. Men between the ages of 18 and 24 are most commonly abused by an intimate partner. 19% of domestic violence involves a weapon. And domestic victimization is correlated with a higher rate of depression and suicidal behavior. Some of the other impacts that I wanted to state. I have to find what I wrote down here. All right. Let's talk about some specifics. I talked about financial abuse, and it's also called economic abuse. Let's talk about what that is, because a lot of people don't know it exists, and it does. And it also comes with PTSD, because I am somebody that still has that. It's still very difficult for me to think about anything that's financial just because of all the different garbage that was told to me and said to me over the years. But here we go. Economic abuse takes many forms. Victims of domestic violence may be unable to leave an abusive partner or may be forced to return to an abusive partner for economic reasons. Victims are coerced. Debt may face massive barriers to economic self-sufficiency, including struggling to find a job or even obtaining a place to live after leaving an abuser due to debt or its detrimental effects on their personal credit scores. Between 94 and 99% of domestic violence survivors have also experienced domestic or economic abuse. 94 to 99%. That means their perpetrator didn't want them to have a job. They didn't want them to be able to be on their own so that they could keep them right here in their own little space. Between 21 to 60% of victims of domestic violence lose their jobs due to reasons stemming from the abuse. So some of that could be stalking, calling constantly to your office, having to call in sick because you've had some type of physical abuse that you can't go in. Between 2005 and 2006, 130,000 stalking victims were asked to leave their jobs as a result of their victimization. Those are huge. See, some other forms of that is forcing the victim to sign financial documents, forcing the victim to obtain loans, applying for credit cards, obtaining loans, or opening accounts in victims' names without their knowledge, so jacking up their credit, demanding that they lease or mortgage or assets be put in the abuser's name, and using the victim's checkbook, ATM card, or credit cards without the victim's knowledge. So there's all kinds of different types of the financial abuse. Psychological abuse. This happens more than not. And a lot of people don't know that it's really happening to them. It's sometimes a very slow and progressive. 48.4% of women and 48.8% of men have experienced at least one type of psychological aggressive behavior by an intimate partner. 4 in 10 women and 4 in 10 men have experienced at least one form of coercive control by an intimate partner in their lifetime. 17.9% of women have experienced a situation where an intimate partner tried to keep them from seeing their family and friends. 18.7% of women have experienced threats of physical harm by an intimate partner. 95% of men who physically abuse their intimate partners are also psychologically abusing them. Let's talk a little bit about that. Psychological abuse includes humiliating the victim, controlling what the victim can or cannot do, withholding information from the victim, deliberately doing something to make the victim feel diminished or embarrassed, isolating the victim from friends and family, denying the victim access to money or other basic resources, stalking, demeaning the victim in public or in private, undermining the victim's confidence and or sense of self-worth, and convicting the victim that they are crazy, she or he is crazy. Psychological abuse increases the trauma of physical and sexual abuse, and a number of studies have demonstrated that psychological abuse independently causes long-term damage to a victim's mental health. Victims of psychological abuse often experience depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, suicidal ideation, low self-esteem, and difficulty trusting others. Subtle psychological abuse is more harmful than either overt psychological abuse or direct aggressive abuse. So there is so much that goes on without just someone having physical abuse. I wanted to talk also because this is huge to me, and this is a passion to me in getting out there and talking to teens. This is teen dating violence. So if you have a daughter or a son, you need to pay attention because this is happening more than you think it is. Nearly 20.9% of female high school students and 13% of male high school students report being physically or sexually abused by a dating partner. 20%. Nearly 1.5 million high school students in the United States are physically abused by dating partners every year. A 2013 study, so you know these statistics are higher, of 10th grade students found that 35% had been either physically or verbally abused. 31% were perpetrators of the physical or verbal abuse. A study found 10% of teenage students in dating relationships were coerced into sexual intercourse in the previous year. 26% of teens in relationships were victims of cyber dating abuse. Females were twice as likely to be victims as males. 57% of teens know someone who has been physically, sexually, or verbally abusive in a dating relationship. 33% ever tell about the abuse that they were living. I wanted to talk about this one thing, and that was mostly high school. So this is college. 43% of college dating women reported experience abusive behaviors from their partner. Over 13% of college women report that they have been stalked. Of these, 42% were stalked by a boyfriend or ex-boyfriend. 1 in 5 women are sexually assaulted during their college tenure. Date rape among college students accounts for 36% of attempted rapes, 22% of threatened rapes, and 12% of completed rapes. Domestic violence is most common among women between the ages of 24, like I said earlier. The rate of marriage has declined steeply over the last 50 years. People, particularly young people, are dating longer than previous generations, which means we're all thinking about it maybe a little bit more. And let me see if I have one more. So I have one more that I want to read. And this is about experiencing emotional and verbal abuse. And some of this I might have talked a little bit about, but not all of it. Oh, so this is kind of triggery. You may be experiencing emotional or verbal abuse if someone wants to know what you're doing all the time and wants you to be in constant contact, demands passwords to things like your phone, email, and social media, and shows other signs of digital abuse, acts very jealous, including constantly accusing you of cheating, prevents or discourages you from seeing friends or family, tries to stop you from going to work or school, gets angry in a way that is frightening to you, controls all your finances of how you spend your money, stops you from seeing a doctor, humiliates you in front of others, calls you insulting names such as stupid, disgusting, worthless, fat, threatens to hurt you, people who care about you, or pets, threatens to call the authorities to report you for wrongdoing, threatens to harm himself or herself when they are upset with you, says things like, I can't have you, then no one else can, decides things for you that you should decide, like what to wear, things like that. So that was a couple of different scenarios. And then I said I have one more. So when someone goes through this abusive type relationship, their self-esteem is totally destroyed. And I will tell you, 100% is totally destroyed. And it takes a lot to get it back because we have our own self-talk that we hear that person's voice. They are made to feel they will never be able to find another person to be with. The cycle of abuse, meaning the honeymoon phase that follows physical and mental abuse, makes them believe their partner really is sorry and does love them. It's dangerous to leave. I don't know if you guys know this statistic. Women are 70 times more likely to be killed in the weeks after leaving their abusive partner than any other time in the relationship, according to the Domestic Violence Intervention Program. Statistics suggest that almost 5% of male homicide victims each year are killed by an intimate partner. They feel personally responsible for their partner or their own behavior. They are made to feel like everything that goes wrong is their fault. Everything. Whether it be the perpetrator's job, whatever happened to them that day, something that they have no control over whatsoever, but it's their fault. They share a life, so their marriage, children, homes, pets, and finances are a big reason victims of abuse feel they can't leave. And that's huge. And that makes me very sad, but also understanding of why you feel you can't leave. We go through different stages of, I don't have a job. What am I going to do? And there is so much that you can do. There are so many places that you can go for help. If you know, I'm going to put my phone up here. If you know anybody that is going through, this is going to fall, trauma like that, is going through a relationship like that, and you see it, more than likely see it, they don't know what's going on. And this is not going to work. They don't know what's going on. And that's the bad part. For me, I was in a relationship for 30 years, and it was a very slow process. It was towards the end of that I was starting to see everything. He was getting more angry, more aggressive, and telling me again, everything was my fault when, I'm not saying that I was perfect by any means, but everything can't be my fault. I felt like I couldn't go see my friends or go out with friends. And it wasn't because he told me I couldn't go. but it was how he made me feel and the things that he would say that it wasn't worth going. I didn't want to go. So every one of us knows somebody in that type of relationship, and understand that they may not see what's happening, but you still need to talk to them and ask them, are you okay? You know, there's a local hotline, but there's also a national hotline, and I'm going to give you that number. It's 1-800-799-7233. So I just gave a lot of statistics and a lot of information, and I may have lost some people and I may have gained some people. I don't know, but it's a lot. And it's just to make you aware of what is going on every day in lives behind the closed door. Because when I tell my story, for people that have known me for 20 something years, they didn't know what was happening. Because for the first part, I didn't know it was happening. But then when I did know it was happening, I was, making excuses, and that was probably another thing, is making excuses and even telling my kids, it's okay, this is happening and it'll be okay. And you just get to a point where you're tired of making excuses. You're tired of making things up. And those are red flags. You need to seek help. You need to reach out to family or friends, and definitely to a hotline. There are shelters. There are places that you can go. There are many, many things that are out there. Even if you feel like you don't have anywhere to go, you don't have a car, you don't have a job, you don't have income, you have however many kids, there is a place for you to go. There is help for you to go. And you just have to be able to reach out to a family member, a friend, the hotline. There are so many places. There's so many people that want to help you. Okay, and now I want to talk a little bit about the book. And for me, it was it was a labor of love, a labor of trauma, a labor of what do I do? But this is it. Watch Me Choose Me. Ta-da! And I'm very proud of it. And I hope that if you read it or you think of someone that needs to read it, that you can relate to whatever's happening in this. And to me, I feel like there's bits and pieces that even if you haven't been through a abusive relationship, that you still would be able to relate to some things that are in here. So the first part of this book is about my journey, about how I got to where I did, my low self-esteem as a middle school, high school, low self-esteem, feeling no self-worth, no self-love whatsoever, and feeling unwanted. And, in comes the knight in shining armor. And so it goes through the phases of the dating and the marriage and the kids and the different pieces of abuse. And then it talks about how my blinders fell off, how my eyes were wide open, and how I saw the things that I saw and made the decision to leave and figure out how that looked. Because that's another thing. If you're going through abuse and you're needing to leave, everyone's going to give you their opinion of how you should leave, what you should do. You know what's best for you in your situation. Definitely listen to what everyone has to say, but that what they have to say does not mean that that's what you have to do. And the first thing you need to do is reach out to a domestic violence advocate who can help you and walk you through what that looks like for you. You don't have to figure out all the hows. Let's just figure out how. Let us help figure out. Let the advocates help figure out what's the best route for you so you are safe. And that's the main thing. So figuring out how I was leaving, what I was going to do, where I was going to live, what all of that looked like. And then once I left, what I liked, what I wanted, what I wanted to do with my life. But the other part was what I liked to do. I had no idea. I didn't know what I liked. Did I like this because it's what I've always done for the last 30 years? Or did I not like it? And I don't ever want to do that again. So figuring yourself out. So walking through me in figuring out the different avenues of myself, that's in here. And finding love, real unconditional love happened. And that's in here. And where I am today. All of that is in this little book that's probably about a good 3 hour read, 3 to 4 hour read, maybe, depending on how fast you read. And I wanted to read, I was going to read a chapter, and then I thought, no, I don't know what chapter to pick. So I decided to read the prologue, which will tell you a lot about what's going on. I keep looking up at my Facebook to make sure there's no questions or whatever. So here's the prologue. And again, this is Watch Me, Choose Me. And you can find this on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Amazon was out of stock, but I think they're back in stock tomorrow or the next day. Target.com, I've seen it. And you can get it also at my website, which is joyousliving.com. So let me read this to you, and hopefully you resonate with some of the things in here. But this is the prologue. I don't know which way to go. I was born with extra height, as you all know, I'm 6'2", extra smile, extra happy, and extra positivity to get me through my crazy life. My story is let me just go ahead and mess up. My story is like a lot of women out there. It is also unlike a lot of women out there. It may be hard to read. It may be hard to comprehend. You may ask, why didn't you leave? You may tell yourself, I went through the same thing. What makes my story different? I'm telling it. Very few people will tell their story. They are scared of the perpetrator, scared of the shame and the guilt, and shame of the judgment that other people will project on them. Scared no one will understand, believe them, and scared someone will ask them that number one question: why didn't you leave? I am telling my story because I am no longer afraid. I am not afraid of my perpetrator. I am not afraid of the shame and judgment some will want to cast upon me. I am not afraid of those who don't understand or those that will ask that question, why I didn't leave sooner. You know how I answer that question? You can't escape a prison you don't know you're in. When I figured out what I was in, I started my escape plan. I was lucky. Many people aren't so lucky. They feel they are trapped, that they have to stay because they have no money. They have no support system. They have their kids, but they don't have a job. Multiple reasons. The truth is, we all need to escape from the abuse. There are ways, there are places out there for you to go. It may seem impossible, but it is possible, and my story is proof. Statistics from the YWCA show 1 in 3 women have been victims. 2 out of 3 Americans have never talked about domestic violence with their friends. We must do more so women and men like me are not harmed or killed. You can do more. We can all do more. You know someone. You have seen a sign or two. You know you've seen it. Reach out to them. See what you can do to help them. Domestic violence is real. It is happening all around us. Some people get it, others do not, and cast blame on the victims. I know this firsthand. When I wrote this book, I hired an editor. Her job was to edit the grammar, the flow of the story, and the structure. She took it upon herself to add judging, shaming, and blaming. She told me, you could have left at any time. She felt that because he didn't hit me, the abuse was also my fault and that I let it happen. She went on further and told me, my story wasn't anything different from anyone else. If I was reading this as a book right now, I would throw it across the room. Her side notes read, blah, blah, blah. And so what? Poor you. Wow. I was astonished with what I was reading. As I wrote this book, I worried about the judgment and shame that might happen to me. I told myself not to worry, it'll be okay. That judgment and shame I was afraid of deep down when this book was to be released happened to me before it ever made it to be published. The first person to read this book who didn't know me shamed me and judged me. I was crushed. 1, I wasn't expecting it. 2, I thought I had fought the demons back from the inside of me. I obviously hadn't. And 3, she went as far as to tell me to not list her as the editor, that her clients would not like seeing her being involved with my story. The tears came streaming down my face, and I stopped after a few minutes. No, you will not let someone who clearly knows nothing about domestic violence take this work away from you. I stopped crying, and I turned those tears back into my passion. That moment, I also turned those feelings back into my power. I will not let someone take away something I have worked so hard for, to inspire other women and men in similar situations. I will take my power, and I will keep my power. I am beautiful, I am powerful, and I am strong. And then it starts the first chapter. So I hope you guys liked that prologue. So that's the first part of the book. That's the introduction.
Some frogs can hibernate.
Okay, now Alexa's talking to me. Alexa, stop. She's talking about frogs. So I hope you guys enjoy this. And again, I'm sorry that Teresa is feeling sick and I've lost my co-host for the night. She'll be back next week. If you guys have any questions or comments or anything, or have anything that we want to talk about, or you want us to talk about in the future, message us or put as you watch this in replay or anything else, send us a message or a comment and let us know what you want to talk about. Again, if you want to talk about the book, Watch Me, Choose Me by Cami Martin. And you can find it on my website, Joyous Livin', and that's JoyusLivin.com. But you can also find it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all the other places where you would go buy your book. It is not available as ebook yet, but it will be soon. I just haven't done that part. And at some point, really soon, I'd like to do an Audible as well, so you can hear where the inflection needs to be. Hope you guys have a great night. If you need anything from us or you have questions, like I said, reach out. The number one reach out thing, if you need the domestic violence hotline, this is the national number again. It is 1-800-799-7233. Reach out to somebody. If you feel that you're going through similar situations, there's someone out there to help you. So hope you guys have a great night, and I'll talk to you soon. Oh, I'm supposed to finish with something, so hold on just a minute. But thank you much to everyone for joining us today. I'm Cami and my co-host Teresa. We host the Real Talk, Narcissism and Self-Love at Speak Up and Empower every Wednesday at 6 Central, 7 Eastern. Please let us know if you have any questions or concerns and you would like to suggest a topic or simply have comments. We would love to hear from you. More information about Speak Up and Empower and the wide range of real talks can be found at www.speakupandempower.com. And I suggest you go there. There are so many different real talks on there of so many, hundreds of things. So go and check it out. Y'all have a great evening, and I'll talk to everyone soon. Thank you. Bye.